So yesterday I was on a walk with a really good buddy of mine, and first of all, just always have good people in your life. That's just, I guess, we could start over there. But what was interesting is we went on this walk and we were talking about things that are going on. We're in a similar industry, and um, we were talking about certain, just things that are in like personal lives, professional lives, and whatnot. And it was interesting because throughout our talking, one thing came out that to me was eye opening. There's been something that's been bugging me, bothering me recently, and I'm trying to like figure out what does it mean, what's the feedback that we can get from it. And through speaking with him and talking to him and really talking it out, I had such clarity. And I think that the reason why I was so bothered by it is I was so scared to say the thing that I said, like to talk out the feeling that I had. And I think so many times we're so forced and we get so pressurized, whether it's the label that other people put on us, whether it's the peer pressure that we get from just society or our friends or our family. And what ends up happening is we don't allow ourselves to really be our true authentic self. And we sort of end up going in this path that maybe other people have decided for us or described for us, or maybe we got caught up in the excitement. And what ends up happening is that we end up doing things or living a life that we might not really want to have been living. And I think it's so powerful because I think so many people feel so stuck. They have that feeling of like something's not right and they just can't put their finger on it. And if you get clarity on what that really is, what ends up happening is you end up becoming the person who you really want to become. It happens in branding a lot, personally, not personally, but it happens in branding a lot, where people want to become somebody. They want to become like a Tony Robbins, or in my field, or they want to become whoever it is in whatever profession you're looking up to the leaders in that field. And you end up like acting like that person. And what happens is that even if you start to build a community around you being that person, what ends up happening is like you end up separating your true reality of who you really are with that person as time goes on. And you get down this hole where like, oh my gosh, everybody knows me as like this guy, or like the funny guy, or whatever type of person that you're going to be, but really that's not who I am. And you end up like separating yourself from this person that you've created. And what ends up happening is like you usually get burnt out. At a certain, I believe at a certain point it's going to pop, and you're going to really have to try to do some self-discovery and really try to figure out who it is that you are and what's going on. But we have to realize that if we are not getting in tune to what that is, then all we're doing is we're setting ourselves up for, I believe, we're setting ourselves up for failure and like not a fulfilled life. Like think about it. Like if you could be living a life, even if you could hit all your goals that you want to be hitting, but you're doing it as like a fraud or a fake, like what is that? Like, is that like you're definitely not going to feel fulfilled? I personally believe you're not going to feel fulfilled. And that is something that we need to start to ask ourselves. And it doesn't mean that we did anything wrong. Also, I think a lot of times people might come into it and they just might start judging themselves. And it's like, no. Like, there's nothing that you did wrong over here. Like, you didn't know. But what we can do is we can start to switch it. We can acknowledge it and start to change it. I think that's where we have to come in proactively. And that was like one of my aha moments that I had yesterday, because I was on this walk and I came into it, and all of a sudden I started to be like, oh, you know what? Like, this is something that I do or don't want to be doing, and I have to try to figure out, what that looks like. And I think so many people get so stuck. So what's going on here? How is it that we can start to work on this? How can we start to get more clarity? I think is a really important topic. So we're going to talk a little bit about that too. If you have any questions, you put them in the chat, and we will definitely get onto that. So it's interesting because I think on the one hand, I think in general, I just heard this quote somewhere. Somebody quoted a book. I wish I wrote down the book. I believe it was Ali Abdaal, who I listened to, and he was quoting a book where we sort of conform to like the closest people around us. So it's like the classic example. Jim Rohn talks about how you're going to be influenced by the 5 people that are closest to you. And what we need to understand is that on the one hand, like we are going to be influenced regardless of what we want. Like think about it. Any marketing job is to get you to like their stuff, to make you feel a certain way when it comes to their materials or their products. And if we can start to understand that, hey, people are constantly trying to get our attention, and they're trying to make us act in a certain way, to buy a certain product, to do a certain thing, then all of a sudden we start to realize, hey, like there's like this thing called there's this thing out there called marketing. Like, why do you think advertisements work? It's because they are constantly being put into your face, and they want to get into your subconscious to allow you to feel a certain way, to make sure that you can buy their product. And that is something that is so powerful that I think a lot of people know on the top level, but when it comes to the way they even act, I think it's something that they don't necessarily know. It's like, you have this high school kid who like wants to become a millionaire and they want to be able to buy real estate. And all of a sudden, like they just think about real estate as like the only avenue. And like it can be an avenue and it's really possible to do it. But like everything else is blocked out of their view. And then, oh, 5, 10 years later, they're like, wait a second, there's something called like crypto. Not that I'm promoting crypto because I have no idea anything about crypto, but or maybe there's like, oh my gosh, I could build a business, or I can, I don't know, I could do some other type of thing to make me make money. And what happens is like our perspective gets shifts. And many times we don't even know what those things are until we put ourselves in there. So I would say like that's another reason why we can't judge ourselves, because many times we're doing something because like we think it's right. We were told like this is the way to do it. And we're going to continue to pursue it until sort of reality comes to us, or maybe just our own instinction in terms of like this thing is not like something that I enjoy. It's like, what, it's like the classic kid who I was with my kid. We were at a restaurant the other week and he wanted to get a strawberry smoothie. And we're like, well, do you like strawberry smoothies? He's like, I don't know. And like he was like nervous to get the smoothie or not. And I said, no, let's just get it. And if you don't like it, then like you won't drink it, but like we'll know for next time. Or you might love it and like you'll want to get it next time. And I thought it was a really cool, experience, just because I think so many of us have certain experiences like that where we want to be able to do something. We think we're going to like it, or maybe we're not going to like it, but until we actually put our feet into it, we're not going to know. And he ended up tasting it and he like loved it, which was awesome. And I'm so happy for him. Like, okay, now he has another food that like he might be able to drink or order out when we go. And I think it's really important for us to say, hey, you know what? There's certain things that we might want to be doing. And until we put ourselves and dip our toes into it, we'll really know what's going on there. And I think that's something that's so important when it comes to whoever it is that you're going to become. Like you have to test things out, and you can't look at it as a failure, because this is literally the only step. Like you thought based on your information that you had, like this is the next best move. And what is it you could do next for the next move and next move and next move? Because as long as we keep taking the action, that's going to get us to where it is that we want to be going. Most people, we spoke about the other day, what true failure is. True failure is just like giving up and not trying. But if we're constantly moving forward, if we're constantly taking that action, that's the thing that's going to really be able to help us. So understanding that, I think, is really important when it comes to this idea of conforming to other people's opinions, the marketing world. We have to understand that, their job is to get us to do their thing. And our job is to understand like, hey, is this something that we really want to be doing? And it doesn't mean that's all bad. I don't think like all marketing is bad. Because the thing on the one hand, like if somebody's trying to market something that's really going to help you, or, open your eyes to something, like that could be like really beneficial. And that's what we have to understand when it comes to this idea, is that sometimes we're being conformed in a certain way that might be detrimental to us. Sometimes it can be really positive for us. And if we can start to put ourselves in a situation where we understand it, and I think as long as we understand what's happening and be proactive about it, then I think that could be something that could be totally fine. So when it comes to this idea, so how are we supposed to recognize what's going on here? And I think one of the big things that we have to realize is, I think we know, I know it sounds simple, but I think many times we come to a situation where not really, we have this feeling inside. We have this like pit in our stomach, or we keep trying and like something's just not working. It's just like not adding up. And I think so many times we really know what's happening in our own personal lives, or what's going on in the situation, it's just not clicking. And I believe that clicking is not, a lot of times people get frustrated by that click. And a lot of people get so annoyed by the fact that it's not clicking. But understand, like the click itself, yes, we might have to persevere and we might have to keep going forward. But the click itself also just might be an indicator that, hey, you know what? Something's off here. And as long as you keep trying and you keep putting in the efforts and you keep trying to figure out what's going on, then all of a sudden you can say, hey, you know what? This thing isn't working out. I don't have to force myself. I don't have to force a square peg into a round hole. And what we have to understand is that we have to figure out what's going on there. And I think most people like beating themselves up when things aren't working, but also understanding, hey, you know what? My expectation was this. I tried it out. It's not working. I pivoted a little bit. I tried this, I tried that. And then all of a sudden it's not working. It's like, hey, wait a second. That's not it. That's not it. And it doesn't even necessarily mean you need to change your whole lifestyle. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to, throw everything out the window that you've been doing. But I think just understanding it and acknowledging the fact that this thing isn't right, that is so freeing, because so many times we get so chained down to the fact that we're doing something and we have to be doing it and we're forced to do it. And, people are relying on us. And what we have to realize is that we don't have to be chained down. We don't have to be forced to do anything. And if you could understand, hey, you know what, this situation I'm in, it happens a lot in entrepreneurship because you see people like bouncing around a lot. And the more you get into it, you see the more people are bouncing around. And no, they have different opportunities, and that's great. And this and that, and people's got to make you got to make it work. I understand. So I think it happens a lot in entrepreneurship. And what we have to realize is that if that does happen, it doesn't mean you have to like quit. So if like you're in real estate and you're like, real estate isn't my thing, it doesn't have to mean like I don't even know what my thing is going to be, or it doesn't mean like real estate full time is my thing. Maybe it's part time, right? Or maybe it's a certain angle of the real estate that I enjoy, and you could go 100% into that, or it's like, no, I'm going to do my other thing. I'm going to get a job in marketing because I really enjoyed that, but then I'm going to be able to do my real estate on the side. And I think that's really part of it. So it doesn't necessarily mean just because you have this aha moment, just because you acknowledge the fact that you feel a certain way, or you don't like something, or you do like something, that doesn't mean that you have to throw everything else away. And I think there's a strategic way, because we also want to be responsible, and we also understand that people are, are sometimes, relying on us to help them do certain things. And if we can start to understand that, I think that could be something that could be really interesting. But when you do get that feeling, when you do understand like, hey, something's off over here, we can't be judgmental on ourselves, because first of all, we love being judgmental on ourselves. But I think the second thing is that we need to understand what's really going on here. What is it we can start to do, and start exploring and get creative with the exploration? Because I think so many times people are scared to explore. People are scared to have big dreams. We did a podcast on, the idea of like why adults would be better off if they had like a kid's mentality in terms of like what's really possible in life. And if we can start to say to ourselves, hey, you know what? We do have the ability. We can be doing more. I can explore more in whatever area it is that I'm trying to do. Then all of a sudden, we could start to, we don't have to, we could feel a lot more free. And I think that is something that is so powerful, and so many people are after. Because if you can feel free just by acknowledging something, imagine once you start to do that thing, right? Or stop doing that thing. And I think that is something that is so powerful. And, so we have to try to figure out like, why is it that we're doing this thing in the first place? So let's say you have that bug and you're trying to figure out, okay, so now what? I have this bug. And I think that, the questions we need to ask ourselves open-ended questions. So it shouldn't be a yes or no question, but like, what about it do I like? What about it do I not like? How can I like it more? How, is it even possible to like it more? What's wrong with my certain expectation? Going back to expectations, because I really believe that our expectations are one of the things that, throw us down. If you have an expectation to be making, if somebody's going to give you a gift of $100,000 and they'll only give you $50,000, like you're going to be upset. But you just give you $50,000. And the reason is because we had a wrong expectation. So I think with ourselves also, we set ourselves up for success, or we think it's going to be a certain way, and then all of a sudden it's not that way. So therefore we end up taking it back, and we get upset and annoyed. So what are the expectations that we're off? How can we reframe certain feelings that we have in a different way? And I think if we could start to do that, then all of a sudden we start to really get ourselves into the idea of, right, you know what, we have certain things that we like. There are certain discomforts that we have. They're just indicators in terms of what is we need to do. What's the feedback that I'm getting from that indicator? How is it that I can shift my perspective in order to make sure that I can continue to move forward, to continue to take the action that I need to do, even just mentally take the action. And I think yesterday, the big thing for me was, because this issue that I was going through has really been bothering me. I think one of the things that was really helpful for me was that I acknowledged the fact and I said it out loud. And I think if you could say something out loud like that, if you can say, hey, you know what, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and I am going to be, feeling the certain way, and saying it, and not just saying it and like in terms of like curiosity, like in terms of like a question, oh, maybe I just don't like doing this, or maybe I do like doing this. It's more just like owning it. It's like really taking ownership, like Jocko talks about. Like, you need to take ownership, and it's saying, I do or I don't like this, and like taking that deep breath with it and allowing yourself to say, you know what, I do or I don't, because we're so scared to commit. And we think once we commit, everything's going to change. And the truth is, nothing's going to change except for our own comfort and own relaxation inside. And I think that is so powerful. So I highly recommend, if you are going through one of these feelings, if you are feeling that something's not adding up, something's wrong, you don't know what it is, or maybe you really do know what it is. As a coach, I believe you do know what it is, but it really has to come out of you. Nobody could tell you what it is. You have to pull it out of yourself. And this is the hard work. This honestly is like the hardest stuff to do. And if you could start to pull that out, or get a friend, a mentor, a coach to really help pull that out of you, that could be the biggest shift. It could be the biggest change in your life. You can start to acknowledge certain things about yourself and you don't have to judge yourself on it. Okay, this is like what my preference is. And like that's totally fine. And I think once we start to do that, then we have the ability to move forward. You don't have to judge ourselves in terms of feeling a certain way. We can explore, get creative. And remember, like we said earlier, it's only going to come out at a certain time. It's only going to happen at a certain time for us. So we need to understand what we need to do is to realize, hey, what is it that we have to be doing in order to allow ourselves to take that action, in order to move forward, to understand a certain feeling that I'm having. And once we do that, then I'm telling you, you're going to feel like $1,000,000. You're going to love it. And you're going to want to like tap into that. And then you get more curious. Okay, what's the next step? What is it I can do? And by doing that, I'm telling you, you start to live the life that you want to be living. You don't have to conform to everybody else. And you get to really start to be doing really, really amazing things that you believe are truly, really amazing.